we're going to be solving equations, but at this point, we're not actually being asked to totally solve this equation. We're just being asked, what step would you do in order to solve this problem? So I'm going to kind of scoot that out of the way. And what we've got is we've got this x minus 24 is equal to 9. And so I want you to think about this as a balance beam. All right, a balance beam where these two sides are perfectly equal. All right. Now, the way we want to solve this equation is we want to get x all by itself. And right now it's kind of connected to this minus 24. So how do you get rid of a minus 24? Well, you do the opposite. So what we're going to do is the opposite of minus 24 is add 24. But because it's a balance, whatever you do to one side, you got to do to the other side. So that's going to be, we're going to add 24 to both sides. Now what's going to happen? All right, well, on the left side, this minus 24 plus 24, they kind of undo each other. So the left side, you're left with just the x. Meanwhile, on the right side, you've got 9 plus 24, which is 33. A couple of things I want you to notice. One, I want you to notice that I lined up the equal signs. And that's super duper important. And then down the left, I did all the algebra on the left, and then on the right, I did all the arithmetic with just the plain old numbers. And the important thing is I want you, in your scratch paperwork, to always line up your equal signs as you work down solving your equation. But here's the deal. Really, all we needed to do was answer, what are we going to add to each side? And the answer is we're going to add 24 to each side. So that's really all we were supposed to do, but I wanted to solve it so that you could see what it looks like. Another problem, kind of the same, only this time it's going to be subtraction, because we have x plus 4 is equal to 16, and so we want to get that x all by itself, but right now it's connected by an addition. So what's the opposite of addition? Subtraction. So we're going to subtract by 4 from both sides. And so keeping my equal sign lined up, what's going to happen on our left side? Well, the left side, these guys are going to cancel each other out, leaving us with just an x. And then on the right side, we're going to get 12, because 16 minus 4 is 12. So that means x is equal to 12. However, the directions up here say, what are you supposed to subtract? Well, we're supposed to subtract a 4 from both sides. So you're just going to write 4. You're not going to put minus 4. Just subtract 4 from both sides. More of the same, only this time we are supposed to solve the equation. All right, so we've got x plus 5 is equal to 27. So first off, we could just use logic. A mystery number plus 5 equals 27. Oh, our mystery number must be 22, all right, because we use logic. 22 plus 5 is equal to 27, done. But we want to show algebra because, of course, when we get to these harder problems, we're going to have to show all of our steps because we won't be able to do it in our head. So we want to get this x all by itself, but it's connected to a plus 5. So we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. And what does that do? That means that these guys undo each other. So we end up with an x equals 22. And notice that my equal signs are all perfectly lined up. That's kind of what I want. And so there we go. We know we got the answer right. More of the same. All right, so we've got a minus 8 equals negative 1. So don't let all the negative stuff start to freak you out. It's all the exact same process. So we want to get a all by itself, but right now it's connected to a minus 8. So we're going to add 8 to both sides. So the first part is pretty easy. the minus 8 plus 8 undo each other, giving us an A. Notice I lined up my equal signs. Now here, I'm going to go over here on scratch paper, like over here, scratch paper. What is, let's do it in blue, negative 1 plus 8? Well, negative 1 plus 8, you got to know your negatives. So negative 1 plus 8, that equals 7, positive 7. So now we know we are right. So A is equal to 7. Now, how can we check? Well, A minus 8 equals negative 1. That's our equation. So we're saying we're going to put in 7 minus 8 equals negative 1. And is that a true story? Does 7 minus 8 equal negative 1? Yes. So that means our answer of of 7, our answer of 7 is correct. So the answer is 7. So we've got another equation. We've got 8 equals y minus 6. All right, now this is the same as everything we've been doing. The only thing is now the algebra is on the right side of the equation. Now, if this really bothers you and you just can't stand the fact that the algebra is on the right side of the equation, feel free to reverse it. Y minus 6 is equal to 8. Because you could do that. It's, opposites. You could reverse the equal sign and you could solve this problem and you would get the same answer. But let's be creative. Let's solve it the way it was given to us. We want to get the y all by itself, but it's connected by a minus 6. So we're going to add 6 to both sides. So the minus 6 and plus 6 undo each other, leaving us with a y. And there's my equal sign stacked up. And on the left, that's pretty straightforward. 8 plus 6, that's 14. So that means y is equal to 14. Whoa, that looks like an 11. 14. All right, y is equal to 14. Now we could check it. We could put in 14 over here. 14 minus 6 equals 8. And sure enough, 14 minus 6 does equal 8. So this is a true statement. Woohoo! So that means my answer of 14 is correct. All right, now we're getting fancier and fancier, but I don't want you to freak out because it's all pretty easy. You got x minus 8 sevenths is equal to 13 sevenths. So we just got fractions, but fractions are numbers, just like 2 or 8. And so we're going to do the exact same concept. We have an x, but it's connected to a minus 8 sevenths. So we're going to add 8 sevenths to both sides. So the minus 8 sevenths, and plus 8 sevenths undo each other. So we've got x, and then my equal signs are lined up. Now we've got 13 sevenths, and I'm going to do this over on scratch paper. 13 sevenths plus 8 sevenths. Well, we already have common denominators, so we don't have to worry about that. So our answer becomes 21 sevenths. But 21 sevenths, that means another way to think of that is 21 divided by 7. So that really is equal to 3. So x is equal to, and I'm going to put it right here, 21 sevenths, which is equal to 3. So x equals 3. And that is your answer. Now we're solving equations with decimals, and decimals are just like regular old boring numbers. So don't get freaked out. So what do we have here? Well, we have an x connected to a minus 8.6. So how are we going to undo that? We're going to add 8.6 to both sides. So these guys undo each other, leaving us with just an x. And then now over here, all right, what do we have? So basically on scratch paper, we have negative 6.8 plus 8.6, all right? Now, because the positive is bigger than the negative, we know that the answer is going to be a positive answer. So we're going to go down here on more scratch paper and we're going to subtract. And you get 1.8. So the answer is positive 1.8. So the answer is positive 1.8. Now, if you really, really want to, you could use a calculator, but golly, I want you to know the negative numbers and how to do negative numbers so that if you use a calculator, you can always use your mind and estimate and say, does that answer make sense? Did I press the buttons correctly? And we are still going to be doing some more negative numbers stuff here. Negative 8 is equal to x plus 20. And again, if you don't like the fact that the algebra is on the right side of the equation, you're allowed to flip it and reverse it. I'm not going to do that. Well, what it would look like would be x plus 20 is equal to negative 8, all right? But we don't need that because we can, I'm going to put it, whoa, yikes, I'm going to put it way up here. Because we could do it with the algebra on the right side. That's not a problem. So we see that the x is connected to a plus 20. So I'm going to subtract 20 from both sides. And so the plus 20 and the minus 20 undo each other, leaving us with just an x on the right side. Now this left side, we're going to go over here on scratch paper, because what does that mean? That means negative 8 minus 20. Now, how do you do negative 8 minus 20? When you are subtracting negative numbers, what you do is you change the minus sign to a plus sign, and you change the second number to its opposite. In this case, the 20 becomes a negative 20. So it becomes negative 8 plus negative 20, which is negative 28. So our answer over here is negative 28. A lot of people are going to accidentally do some sort of version of 12 because 20 minus 8 is 12. And sometimes they might say negative 12 or something like that. But the answer is really negative 28. Now, solving more of the integers. And I find that a lot of my students, it's the negative numbers that causes the problem, not the algebra. And so feel free to make sure you ask me for a lot of help with the negative numbers stuff. And I'm happy to help you with that because really most students understand the algebra, the concept of working backwards and doing the opposite. That's not the hard part. The hard part happens to be the integers stuff. Now, the thing here that you'll notice is now the x is not in the front. Now it's in the back. And so when you're looking at this 11, you need to understand that that 11 is really a positive 11. All right? And that's important. Now it happens to be a plus here too. That's a coincidence. But when you see just a plain old number, you know it's a positive. Now here's what you're going to do here is we want to get rid of this positive 11. How are we going to do that? We're going to put in a minus 11. All right? And that means we're going to do the minus 11 over here as well. If this was a minus sign, we would still do a minus 11 because this is a positive 11. This is what matters, not this. All right, well, so what happens? These guys undo each other, leaving us with just an x. Technically, it's a positive x, but that means we could just drop the positive because it's the same thing. So I'm putting my equal sign, and notice they're still stacked up right here. Now I've got to do this negative 8 minus 11. So I'm going to go over here on scratch paper, negative 8 minus 11. And what do? Well, the first number stays the same. The minus sign becomes a plus sign. And what used to be an 11 now becomes a negative 11. So that becomes negative 19. So our answer is negative 19. And that wraps up this video.